Hello and welcome to the Cult Popture podcast. This is an episode of film franchise Fortnights, and we've got a very special guest with us today. We've got Miss Kate Taylor, a world famous Christchurch musician. Give us a wee g'day.
G'day, how's it going? I'm here.
I'm also here.
And
I've
as
never been
always,
introduced third before.
We're joined from Grim Sky Productions,
Oh,
Alexander Jones. See, that's why I didn't give you an introduction up front, because I wanted to do that.
So I made my... We've switched from Skype... We've switched from Facebook Messenger chat to Skype, as of course Richard and I now live in different cities. And I had to dig up my old...
the fact that when I'm left alone to take care of like my microphone, I fucked it up the first time.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so I had to dig up my old Skype account, and turns out I named it grim.sky.productions, which was my edgy high school production company name.
That's incredible.
Do not look it up on YouTube.
Can we please post a link to an episode of your cartoon?
Okay, yeah, I made a cartoon, which sounds real endearing and real like, wow, AJ made a cartoon when he was in high school. It's not good. It's essentially like PowerPoint moving really fast, which I guess is what animation is, but still.
It's just like a bunch of drawings, like 25 a second, and I just kind of string them one after the other and move the characters ever so slightly between them. It's nothing.
It was not as good as it sounds, and it doesn't even sound good, so... There we go.
It's pretty good. You're pretty proud of it. You're downplaying how proud of it you are.
No, okay. Here's what I'm proud about in my cartoon. And Kate, we'll get to you in a second.
I'm fine.
I think that it's really interesting to go back and like look at some of the stories I wrote, because I don't think all the stories are too bad. But 100% everything else that makes up the show was terrible. The story was okay sometimes. The characters were stupid. The animation was bad. The voice acting. I just got whatever microphone I could at the time and just recorded it and then chucked it on. I was like, yeah, that's in sync. And it wasn't in sync.
But we've also... And some of the jokes are funny.
Yeah, that's true. I like some of the jokes. But, yeah.
Do you like how... So, Kate, you're our third female guest we've had on.
Sweet.
And every time we get a girl guest on, I feel like we don't talk to them very much.
Well, you brought up Grim Sky Productions. I had to explain myself.
No, people can do their own research, but I feel like I always feel like we shortchanged Amanda Bertho. Because, like, we had her on. She had a great time. We had a great time with her.
Yeah.
But
she's probably listening to this episode.
We probably didn't let her talk as much as we could have.
So, Kate, you're leading it from here on.
Trust me, don't worry. I will cut in when I want to say something. Don't you worry.
Sweet. Okay, so should we get to the crux of it? I feel like we're talking about
this is a podcast where... Kate, I'll let you explain it.
Oh my gosh.
Kate, you've listened to a couple.
This is a podcast where... No,
I want to hear what you think this podcast is.
It's a podcast where two bearded men with glasses discuss movie franchises. And you talk a bit about... the last one I listened to, you talked about the longest franchise you'd watched.
Yeah.
Which was... there was like Chucky.
We didn't do Chucky.
No, okay.
we did Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah,
it was Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah.
And Land Before Time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there was one other, which was really long.
That's Godzilla.
It was Godzilla.
Yeah.
It took us a month to get through all of them.
Yeah.
Instead of just a fortnight.
Yeah. And we talk about, you talk about the movies and what you would do with them if there was a extra movie or an extra kind of thing that happens.
This is great.
Is that good?
No, this is fine.
And how would you describe each of our like characters on the podcast? Do you think there's like a clear like funny one or like a leader?
Well, I'm like looking at both of you now, and it's quite hard to decipher you separately
because we look the same.
Because you look the same.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're both equal in your parts. Surely.
Surely. We've had different people tell us, like both me and Richard have been talking to people about the podcast before, and they've gone, and it's great because you're the funny one and the other guy's the serious one, and both of us have been called the funny one. So
it depends on what episode you listen to, though.
That's true. Yeah. Anyway, should we get into what we're talking about this this
Yeah.
episode.
So, Kate wonderfully explained that. So, randomly chosen film franchise every 2 weeks. And this week, we're going to be talking about Legally Blonde, which is a series
my
of 3
gosh.
films.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say which is a serious, and I was like, wrong.
Now, hold up, Richard. You just said 3 films. Now, I'm no film buff, but I'm pretty sure there's only 2 Legally Blonde films.
Well, there's actually 3.
No!
What?
And I'm going to be real with you guys. Spoilers for later on in this episode. The 3rd Legally Blonde movie. It might be the worst movie I've ever seen.
I second that motion.
And I don't say that with a grain of salt. I've watched Land Before Time 8. Okay? And I have watched a lot of bad movies specifically for this podcast. Last night I went to a screening for Tommy Wiseau's The Room. It was great fun. Came back home, watched Legally Blondes by myself, and wanted to shoot my head off. My entire head.
Non-spoilers as well for later on, but I messaged Alex the other night and was like, why have you made me watch this? And he was like, oh no, it's all good. And then last night I get this, why have I made you watch this?
Just a quick aside I want to mention. You talked about how Land Before Time 8 being one of the worst films you've ever watched. Now, to anyone listening out there, that doesn't necessarily represent the views of Cult Popture. Obviously, a lot of people are very passionate about Land Before Time, as we learnt, and I recently discovered on Reddit, most people know the way Reddit works is you upvote or downvote something. You can sort in subreddits or in the entire of Reddit by upvotes. So you look at the top of something, and that's the best thing that's ever been posted there, the most upvoted thing. However, if you sort by controversial, and that shows you the most downvoted thing in a certain subreddit. If you go into movies, let's look at the most downvoted post in the last year. It is, in fact, our Land Before Time podcast.
Because people were like, fuck you, I loved Land Before Time as a kid. And we were like, have you seen the rest of the series?
Yeah. Well, it was posted with a title that went in that specifically mentioned the grisly murder of the child actress who played Ducky.
Yeah,
and
that's true. Do you know about
people
that?
were not happy about it. They're like, oh, fuck you, like, it's exploitive, and they're kids' films, they're not meant to hold up to scrutiny. But like, ever since the start of this podcast, we said one of the things we loved about the idea of this podcast is the idea of analysing and scrutinising these films that are not made to be held up to scrutiny, as we'll get into with Legally Blondes, I'm sure.
Now, did you say Legally Blonde or Legally Blondes?
Legally Blondes.
Oh, okay. That's the 3rd one.
Yeah, but it's a nice segue into the first one, which is Legally Blonde. It came out in 2001. It was directed by Robert Luketic. Luketic.
First question. Kate, as a woman, are you offended that these movies are directed by men?
No.
No, okay.
Simple answer, good. No.
that elephant's out of the room now. So, Kate, I'm just wondering, can you... I'll get you to give us an overview of the plot of the film, and if you could just sing that in your beautiful voice.
Well, you know that Legally Blonde is a musical, right?
We should say that's actually one of the reasons why I asked you to be on this episode, because if you're looking at the thumbnail for this episode, you'll also notice that Kate Taylor isn't blonde.
I was platinum blonde.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, get a photo of that.
Yeah.
I'll use that one.
And then have her holding like a gavel.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
Oh, you should put those like judge wigs on us for the thing.
Okay, now I'm getting offended by the males. No, I'm kidding. So tell you about the movie?
Yeah, what is the plot?
The plot is a sorority sister, she's the head of the Delta News.
Yeah.
Is in love with and planned to be engaged to the love of her life, whose name has completely gone from me. What's his name?
I believe it's Warner.
Warner, thank you. Warner, the dreamy Warner.
As in the brothers. Yeah.
As in Warner, don't forget this book I had when I was a kid, and I don't expect either of you to know what it is.
Exactly, I was about to say that.
Yeah. And she is expected to get engaged to Warner, and then he drops the massive bomb that she isn't his family's material because she's basically blonde with big boobs, quote her.
Mm-hmm.
And he heads off to Harvard Law Schools, and she realizes that if she wants to get the man of her dreams, she has to go to Harvard Law School because his brother has the preppy snob fiance. And that's how they're going to fit into the family. So she makes this outrageous video to get into the school, gets her grades up, and gets in. And then it's basically her journey through Harvard Law, thinking that she wants to marry the man of her dreams, but she actually finds her own path and her journey into becoming the lawyer, badass girl that she is.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Pretty good?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wonderful. And you mentioned her scores going up. So she's like, you know what? I graduate in like a month or two. I'm going to go to Harvard Law School. And it's like, and then she ends up getting like 179 on SATs, which is, and it's out of 180. And that puts her in the 0.01 top percentage of people. So it just goes to show that like, you can do whatever you want if you just set your mind to it.
That's true. And, you have to avoid all the parties with the hot guys. It's very important to stay focused.
Yeah. Oh, that goes without saying.
That's what I did.
There's actually there's a song in the musical about that.
Can you sing it for us?
No, I can't because I'm not like a hardcore guy.
We're going to get you to sing by the end of this episode.
Oh, I can do the opening song, which everyone quotes.
Okay, how's
which
it
is
go?
the, oh my God, you guys. This one's perfect and it's just my size.
Oh, beautiful.
That's like quarter of the Americanism that they do.
Okay, well, we should. No one's going to hear what we're saying now because they're going to be too busy cheering and applauding. So we'll just wait a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool, that should be enough time.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
All right. So, AJ, can you describe what happens in 2003's Legally Blonde 2, Red, White and Blonde for me?
Okay, so...
Also, these films star Reese Witherspoon, the first two.
And Legally Blonde 2, Red, White and Blonde also stars the lady from Hidden
Sally
Figures.
Field.
Sally Field. Oh, no.
No, you guys.
No, that's not the... No,
Octavia Spencer. It stars Octavia Spencer as a no-named security guard.
That's right.
And I watched it and I was like, out of the two actresses on the screen, one of them has an Oscar. The other one doesn't.
Wait, who were the two actors on screen?
Reese Witherspoon and Octavia Spencer.
They've both got Oscars.
Does Reese Witherspoon have an Oscar?
Yeah, it's funny because if she was opposite Reese Witherspoon or opposite Sally Field, they both have Oscars.
What did Reese Witherspoon win an Oscar?
Walk the Line.
Ah. More like Reese with an Oscar. Reese Witherspoon, Red, White, and with an Oscar is about. So she's getting married to Luke Wilson, whose name in the film is.
Wait, sorry, Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
That's a real.
Oh man,
how do we not remember his name?
I know.
Emmett.
Hey,
like
nice.
from Lego Movie. And so he they're getting married and she decides, and already the next sentence you're going to see why Legally Blonde 2 is the textbook example of an inferior sequel. She decides that, of course, she's getting married, so her chihuahua Bruiser needs his mum to be at the wedding. So that's our inciting incident. Right off the bat, it's about her dog. And so she tracks down the Bruiser's mum and discovers that Bruiser's mum is actually being experimented on by a makeup company? Yeah. And so she's like, oh, I'm going to stop animal testing. And the basic story is she's trying to get a bill through Parliament. So she goes to Washington. Congress, yeah. And so, I mean, I feel like that's all you need to know to understand that movie. And her dog's gay. That's a big part of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is a big part of Legally Blonde too, actually.
Red, White and Blonde.
Yeah,
Please.
sorry. Oh, sorry. My apologies.
Yeah, it's definitely an inferior sequel, and I think a lot of people agree with us on that. Entertainment Weekly ranked it 21st on the 25 worst sequels of all time.
No, it is. It's a good like if we ever write the film franchise Fortnights encyclopedia and we're talking about the certain trends and stuff that we discover, and we're not going to write this, but if we did, Legally Blonde 2 would be on there for me as like what is a bad sequel? They'd be like, oh, well, Legally Blonde 2 is an example of a bad sequel, you know?
Well, it's one type of bad sequel because you get the Legally Blondes, which no one returns. It's terribly filmed, everything like that. This is like everyone's back and they just couldn't recapture the magic because they tripped over. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I have my gripes with that film. I don't know if we should get into them now. We'll talk about what we thought of the films in a second. But yeah, 2009, so 6 years later, brought us the direct-to-DVD Legally Blondes, which was directed by a guy called Savage Steve Holland.
Are you offended that Legally Blonde 3/Legally Blondes was directed not only by a man, but by a man who insisted, I'm sure, on being credited as Savage Steve?
Well, like, that's his... It's not even in quotation marks. It's just his name.
I'm just offended by this movie in general, anything like that's associated with it.
Yeah, so who wants to sort of tell us what this is about?
I don't, because I don't know what it's about.
Okay, all right, I'll give it a go. So it's about Al Woods, who's the name of Legally Blonde. It's about her cousins, and they're from England, and their names are Annie and Izzy, and they're
twins.
They're twins, and they, for some reason, moved to America. I missed the part why. They moved with their dad.
They got scholarships.
Oh, okay, for this, like, super up there high school.
Hoity-toity.
Yeah. And I guess they're vaguely interested in, like, the justice system, which is where the legally part comes in.
Well, because they like to, like, screw over shop clerks and get bargains. And... one of them hates tests. One of them hates public speaking as well.
Yeah. And basically, there's another girl at this high school that doesn't like them because they're so basic.
Who is brunette, by the way.
Yeah, she's brunette. That's important.
Can't forget that.
And my
she's
goodness.
illegally brunette.
My goodness, what actually happens in this movie? There's one thing I've learned from doing the straight to DVD sequel that came out substantial time later from the franchise it's based on. This has happened with a couple others we've done, which is, I know, a really long sentence, but it makes sense. Is that you would think it would be, you would call, it's so stupid, it's so simple. No, it's not. Legally Blonde, the ending of Legally Blonde 1 is almost too simple that I kind of critique it on it. The ending of Legally Blondes is so fucking convoluted that it basically it ends with a trial where they're trying to prove that they're not guilty for stealing answers to a test, and they're not guilty, they were framed. But the way they do it is a 5-minute scene that's dragged out to 20 minutes, and it's so awful. I had a terrible time with this movie. Everyone in it looks like they're made out of plastic.
And they just recycled everything. They recycled everything from 1 and 2 as well, like everything, even like the montages and the jokes and the way that they like attacked them when they were attacking them in the school. Like, you framed us. It was like Al in the first one attacking Chutney.
Yeah,
it was like the same thing, just in a really tortured way.
And also, we're going to be getting into famous iconography from this movie. One of I'd seen Legally Blonde once when I was like 8, so I didn't remember it particularly well going into this. But one of the things I remember was, of course, the bend and snap, which is something.
There's a song about that as well, by the way.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
So basically, Legally Blonde teaches the other blonde that Jennifer Coolidge, actually, that's her.
Yeah, her friend Paulette.
Yeah. She teaches her that if you want to get a man's attention, you just got to bend and snap. So Kate, do you want to tell us what is bend and snapping?
Kate, do you want to show us?
I'm really glad this is a podcast, because I was about to say, what are you going to get me to show you? The bend and snap is a move where you bend, like you pretend to drop something, and so the guy's like, oh, you dropped something, and you're like, I'll get it, and you lean over, pick it up, and then when you've picked it up, you snap back, and you basically put your tits out, but like your fingers are kind of around the edge
to accentuate the bosom.
Thanks.
Now,
in your experience, Kate, has this worked? Is this a good move?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Weekly.
Cool. I must be subconscious when it happens to me on a daily basis.
I don't think it happens to you.
So,
I would probably be Paulette. Let's be honest. I would probably be the girl that like breaks the guy's nose.
Okay.
So I can't say it would work with me.
I want to yes
Would it work on
and
you,
your
AJ?
offer, but
Do
I
you
don't want to offend you by saying, yeah, totally. Would it work on me, did you say, Richard?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it does work on me. I don't think anyone's ever bend and snapped me before.
Do you think it's the hair flip as well, though? Because she really gets a good whip of the hair in
So
there.
that brings me to what I was talking about with Legally Blondes, is that in Legally Blondes, they kind of try to do an equivalent to the bend and snap, and it's called the flick and wave. And the flick and wave
Oh my gosh,
is
I blocked this
basically
out. I forgot.
if you want to get something for half price from a fashion store, you look for the male clerk that's inexplicably working in the female fashion store, and you go up to him and you tell him that you want it for half price, and then you flick your hair back and do a little wave. And I'm doing the action, which is pointless because this is an audio medium. You flick
And you
your
also
hair.
don't have any hair.
Yeah, true. You flick your hair back with your hand, and then with that same hand, you do a little fingery wave.
Yeah.
That's not sexy.
You also like when you're immediately in front of the guy, you're like waving at him.
Yeah, you already started a dialogue with him and then you wave at him? What are you talking? And like in the movie it's treated like it's doctrine. Like it's used a few times throughout it for them to get what they want, with different women on different men flicking their hair back and waving at them, and immediately they're putty in their hands. And I'm like, what even is it?
It's used on fucking Booger from Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah,
he's
Booger's
in
in
this
this movie.
franchise as well.
Yeah.
He was in American Pie Book of Love, which was like the worst one.
The Legally
probably
Blondes
on
of
par with
American
Legally
Pie
Blondes.
movies.
Yeah. And then he was in Revenge of the Nerds, and now he's in this as well.
Yeah. So that's my main gripe.
But the hair flip is a thing, though. Girls do hair flip.
I know they do hair flip, but like,
But the wave, I'm a little... I don't...
Jury's still out on the wave.
But I mean, okay, but is there the addition to the fact that they are, like, how old are they? They're only, like,
17?
17 or something.
Yeah,
or
I was thinking
16.
about that because they're like 24 or 25 now. So that was 9 years ago.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
So what, they would have been like 16 in the movie?
Yeah, let me just fact check this.
Weird.
'cause-
So it couldn't bend. I would be offended by that if they were 16 and bending and snapping.
Yeah.
I- I-
Oh, yeah,
flicking
thank
and
God,
waving. Kate, how dare you? I did look them up after watching the movie and discovered they're now in a band with their two other sisters.
yeah,
Called the
sorry.
Rosso sisters or something. What was it called?
Mm.
They have a song called like Ola or something.
They would have been 14 when they filmed this.
What? They do not look 14. Oh, that makes me forgive some of its sins then. Because
Isn't that so fucked though?
absolutely. I mean, to be honest, compared to the first two, it's
I mean,
not
that's
a very
like half
sexualized movie. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not like they're sexualizing them really that I can think of. There's a scene where they're in bikinis, but
But again, stolen from when Vivian tells Elle to go to the party dressed up. See? Stolen.
I'm sorry that we've spent so much of this time talking about the film and the series that no one listening to this will have seen.
I feel like we really needed to get it like off our chest.
Yeah,
though, 'cause
yeah,
it's-
Fresh. The wound's still fresh.
yeah.
All right, so we've kind of said what we thought of the third one. What did you guys think of the first two?
Kate?
Well, okay. Legally Blonde 1, I shouldn't call it that. Just Legally Blonde, isn't it? Sorry.
The only true legal.
Yeah. I have these like safe movies, and like if I'm like cleaning or baking or like not wanting to pay attention but have something on in the background, I have like a handful of safe movies that you just don't need to watch. Legally Blonde is one of my safe movies, so I like love it in that in that aspect, but it's not gonna like change my life. And then Red, White, and Blue, I was like, yep, cool.
Red, White, and Blonde.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, get the fuck off the podcast.
I'm really not doing well here. Eh?
Sorry, Kate had to go really quickly.
It's because I'm a brunette now.
Yeah.
Sorry, just a bit of a brunette moment.
Yeah, absolutely. It could have happened, or if it didn't happen, I wouldn't have like been heartbroken. But I watched it because Reese Witherspoon is like America's sweetheart. You've got to watch Reese Witherspoon movies because she's just adorable. So she gets
that's
away
why
with that.
This Means War did so well at the box office.
My favourite Reese Witherspoon movie is Wild. Have you guys seen Wild?
I haven't seen Wild
Oh,
yet.
real edgy choice.
But they do this. They do this thing in the
From Sky
Gilmore
Productions.
Girls revival where like you can go on Reese Witherspoon's wild journey, and like you either are like book or you're movie.
the Reese Witherspoon's Wild Journey is like a very popular trail. I don't think it was popularized by Wild. It's
But you go
what's
for
it
the
called?
spiritual journey.
What's the trail called?
I think they've renamed it the Reese Witherspoon's Wild Journey.
Oh, okay.
Probably.
Well, I stand corrected then.
And legend has it like it's one of those things where, sometimes people have said that Reese Witherspoon will actually walk the trail with you.
On cold nights, you can still hear
Wow.
her acting. You can still hear her acceptance speech for Walk the Line. My opinion on Legally Blonde 1 was...
You just said it too.
Oh, AJ had
No,
to go.
I didn't
I'll
say
be doing
red,
a
white,
random-
and blue like some frickin' idiot.
But I'm now offended by the males.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm not. I couldn't hear this.
So a couple of weeks ago, you and I, Richard, we were having dinner with some friends, and I was like, man, it's weird that out of all the movies in all the world, like Legally Blonde has a musical based around it, because I feel like it's not really like a cultural touchstone or cultural tentpole. And everyone at the table looked at me like I'd murdered a cat, and they were like, what are you talking
Including
about?
me.
Yeah, they were like, Yas out, like Legally Blonde is like a feminist masterpiece, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I don't really remember it being that much. So I went into this movie pretty excited because I was like, cool, we're gonna get a feminist masterpiece out of this. And I mean,
what I got was misogynist trash.
it does toe the line in a couple places, I think. But it's like I actually quite like feminist media that is feminist by the nature, in terms of like it shows someone who is reliant on things like men liking her, and then learns that's not important. So that's cool.
Ooh.
So as a fun comedy, yeah, it's really cool. It's really funny. As a movie, it's not perfect. As I said before, I thought can I talk about what happens at the end of Legally Blonde? The first one?
Sure, fine.
So at the end of the first one, she's basically got to prove that this woman didn't kill her husband. And she's talking to the daughter of the husband. And she's played by Linda Cardellini, and she's got this like glorious curly hair. And basically the trap that Al catches her in is that she mentions that she got a perm, then went home and had a shower, and when she got out of the
basically
shower...
her alibi is that she was in the shower.
Yeah, her alibi was in the shower. But then she's like, but everyone knows that, well, everyone who's got curly hair knows that if you've got a perm, you don't have a shower as soon as you get home. And that like that's what entraps her and makes her admit that she killed her father, because it's like, I caught you in the lie. I like that the blonde lawyer saves the day by knowing something that only a blonde person would know. That's a good idea. However, I would probably I could tell you that you shouldn't have a shower after having a perm. Like I didn't think it was the like righteous smoking gun it could have been, because
But that's like, she's also her, what is it called? Like when she was studying, before she went to Harvard, she was a fashion major.
Yeah.
So it's like, of course it was going to be something in the field that she already knew as well. So it's like, it's not like shocking.
Yeah. I'm saying like...
I've always really liked that though.
Yeah, no, I like the concept of it. I like that she has something that like the other lawyers couldn't do. Like that's essential, because blonde is almost like a motif in Legally Blonde. Like being like at the start when she gets broken up with, he's like, oh, because you like Marilyn Monroe, and she's like, what? So you're breaking up with me because I'm blonde? And it's like, yeah, cool. That's our conceit of the movie, is that it's all about how we judge people on how they look, especially blondes. And I never judge people on how they look. And so I like that the climax was, because she is who she is, she saves the day. My only gripe is that it's pretty obvious that you shouldn't have a shower after having a perm. But
yeah. So it's interesting, and then the film ends with her having graduated Harvard. There's like a big, she gives a big speech, and she's like head of her classmates or whatever. And she's like learned a lesson. She's gone through 4 years of Harvard, and then cut to the sequel, and she's just like forgotten any character development she had.
Yeah, man.
I messaged AJ, and I was fucking fuming about this. Is that like? She goes in, so she's like walks into Harvard in the first movie, and she's like, haha, I'm going to be nice to people, and people are just going to give me everything because I've been pretty all my life, and that's how the world works. and then she goes through 4 years of Harvard, like not just law school, at fucking Harvard, and then she goes to like Washington DC. She's like, I'm just gonna like get this bill passed, and now I'm the exact same character from the start of the first film.
Yeah,
and it's like that's one of the reasons for me that the sequel was bad, because like in the first one, it's like, okay, you're frustratingly naive about all this stuff, but I know you're about to have a character arc, so it's okay. And then going into Red, White, and Blonde, like it's all out the window, and it's undoes the first movie and gives us an unlikable protagonist.
Yeah. So Legally Blonde is about how you shouldn't judge people by how they look, and how even like a girl who is a total stereotype can prove everyone a stereo, can prove everyone wrong. And
this girl who's a total stereo, she's literally just a...
and it's like all about how we shouldn't judge people before we get to know them. Legally Blonde, Red, White, and Blonde is about how...
It's about a gay dog.
It's about a gay dog, and how, like, aren't blondes funny? Like, look how naive she still is. And yeah, I agree. What do you think, Kate?
You guys get well deep into this, eh? I was just thinking about... how they were trying to get all the other dudes in Parliament on the bit to sign the bill, and the cheerleaders come and do that bow wow wow and dance on the staircase. And I'm like, where does that fit into all of this, eh? And then the haircuts, like Paulette does all those like wacky ass haircuts, and I'm like, is she smart? Is she, she's, or I don't know. I don't know.
They have to get a thing. They have Bruiser's bill, which is going to if it gets like 250 signatures or whatever, it's going to rule out people being able to test makeup on animals. And they're like, we need 250 signatures to get it across I don't know the terminology here, to get it to work. And on the first day they get like 60 signatures, and they're like, it's not going to work out. And I was like, I got 60 signatures on the first day. I'm like, those are good numbers. Yeah. Like, this is a good trajectory to get 250 by the end of the week. Like,
but if you're like, and then if you're discussing like, is she a pretty girl that just gets stuff because she's pretty? Well, actually, she's got her hot,
she is.
Yeah, well, she's got her hot cheerleader mates, and she's like, look at all these squares in their suits and these big fat cats who are just here drinking their coffee and sitting there. Of course, they're gonna like use their assets of her hot cheerleader friends to get signatures. So, is that smart, or is that abusing that you're a pretty blonde?
I think it might show that her initiative of being a pretty blonde, but more so it shows the vapid nature of the screenwriters who thought that would work on like professional congressmen and women. I think assuming these people have like the integrity of steel. But no, like there's a scene in Legally Blonde where no one's taking her seriously at Harvard because she's blonde and wears pink, and as she gets rejected by a study group, and as she's walking out, one of her other classmates like snaps at her and like makes some call about how she's blonde and maybe she should go back to her sorority mates. And Al looks at her and she goes, if you came to one of the pledge parties, I would have at least been nice to you.
Aww.
And this girl who we learned from earlier in the film is a lesbian goes, oh yeah, where you could all call me dyke behind my back. And Al says, I don't use that word. And then like walks
off. You
off.
must have heard it from Vivian.
Yeah. And it's real.
Sassy.
It's real like. Yeah, that's what this movie is about. It's about how we judge. And, like, it takes a lot to make people feel sorry for a privileged white girl, but that movie shows that everyone has nuance to them.
Yeah.
And the second one...
one of the, like, rules of the film is that, like, Al is, like, super nice.
Yeah.
Like, what I thought you were going to mention there is how there's a scene where the kind of... I don't know, like the AJ of the group is asking out these two girls, and they're obviously.
Right. Are you talking about the stilted guy with like an awkward 1,000-mile stare?
Yeah. So he's asking out these two
AJ
girls,
of the group, right.
And he's getting rejected. Obviously, like it was foolish for him to even ask because obviously they're so out of his league. But
you said the AJ of the group. That much is already clear. Continue.
But and then Al hears them being like, "Oh, I wouldn't date you. Like you're such a AJ kind of thing."
Yeah.
And
It's weird. I was like, are they talking about me?
Aw.
And then Al basically slaps him on the face and goes, "Oh, you didn't call me, and but you're such an amazing lover." And then these two vapid sluts are immediately like, "Yeah, we'll go out with you." I mean, I only call them vapid sluts because Al explicitly states that this man is not a loyal person. He's not gonna call them. He's not not friendly.
Well,
he doesn't treat women well.
Yeah.
But he's got a adequate genitalia and knows how to use them.
And he's the AJ of the group, of course. He is genitalia.
That scene, that actually really confuses me, because if I saw a girl do that to a guy, I'd be like, oh, back away. Like, I would not.
It's 2001. It's a different time.
Yeah, see, Al should have been
that
like, "Oh my
you're
god,"
older than me, and I'm like, it's 2001, Kate.
Yeah, I
grow
was like
up.
42 in that year, so.
Yeah. So that's those kind of movies. Yeah. I mean, so we all generally like the first one. AJ has his dumb little quibbles with it, and we all thought the second one was a big disappointment, and then we all hate the third one.
Yeah.
Did you guys AJ, you talked about how there was a conversation had recently about Legally Blonde having a musical. There was another conversation we had maybe a few months ago where I was just randomly like, is Legally Blonde supposed to be a pun? Because it feels like it should be, but the only thing I can think of is Legally Blind, but that doesn't make any sense.
And this brings us to something we talk about a lot on this podcast, which is
Titles.
baked beans. We're talking about baked beans again. No, we talk about titles. That fell flat. Well, that didn't work. Shouldn't have used baked beans as my go-to.
If you'd said spaghetti, I would have been fine.
Yeah,
but I'm a spaghetti man.
No, that's fair enough. I am too. Why'd I say baked beans? No, yeah.
So show yourself in the foot.
Kate, I don't know how much of our podcast you've listened to, but one thing we talk about a lot on this podcast is titles.
Yeah.
And that is mainly because I guess
We seldom talk about baked beans.
it originated out of the fact that I have really pedantic opinions on titles for movies.
Mm-hmm.
I won't get into it, but anyway, Legally Blonde. Yeah, it's first of all, the sequels, I get their titles, they're fine. I don't really have a problem with them. But yeah, Legally Blonde is a pun on Legally Blind. But
Yeah.
the movie's not about a blind person. It's a pun that needs to work three ways, but it only gets halfway there.
I don't
Yeah.
think it's a pun.
It is. What do you think it means?
I just think it's legal, lawyers,
Yeah,
and
of
she's
course.
blonde.
Right.
So a legal
Right, so
blonde.
that's the one way that the pun works. Well, it is officially a pun
Sorry, I
on
feel like I
Legally
shut you down,
Blind.
eh?
What do you
Official, it is a pun on Legally Blind. But yeah, like AJ says, it doesn't, you can't just replace one word with a different word that sounds kind of similar and call that a pun.
Yeah.
It needs to have it needs to fit.
Yeah.
I once called an episode of my cartoon that I made in high school Illegally Blonde. So that's a four-way pun.
Yeah.
And that was about blondes taking over the world.
That's wild.
Oh.
As a zombie apocalypse thing, not as a Legally Blonde, feminism way. They were literally zombies because every 500 years the blonde moon would rise, and that's when something triggers in every blonde.
See, and that's kind of like
would that
blood
mean that
moon.
would I? Because I'm a natural blonde.
Are you naturally blonde?
Naturally blonde.
So
would I be? Does that mean I'd be one of them?
Because a big plot twist in this episode that I made when I was 16 was that the blonde character in it didn't turn, and they were like, "Why haven't you turned?" And the big twist of the episode was that she's actually born with grey hair.
Whoa.
And she wears a wig.
Whoa.
Whoa.
We digress.
What a dumb twist.
Yeah.
So what would you have called it then, AJ?
I don't know, but I don't have I say that I never have a title to suggest. I don't know, something. The groundwork is already there. It's a lawyer who's blonde, so we've already got that. I don't know. Is there a word that sounds like basic that is in both law and just being a basic white girl?
Let's look up law phrases.
yeah, let's do that.
And you guys can just sit here and listen to the The tippity taps of my keyboard.
Oh, I've got a good story to talk over. Well,
Yes.
a cute story.
Oh,
actually.
so no, we were actually listening to my tippity
Oh, okay.
taps.
Well, we can do
No,
that.
I always listen to your tippity taps.
Well, it's a good story. It's a good story, and I won't mention names, but a friend of mine has just he got his law degree and had to sit the bar, and it was all a big formal affair, and it was awesome, and they have to get up and do they have a person that swears them in, and then the big lawyer man,
Laura,
big,
the law
also
man.
known as the judge, swears them in and all that kind of stuff, and they handle the Bible. And then they do a little thank you speech, and it's all very formal. And then at the end of the speech, my friend was like, and to my friends and colleagues, we did it. As in a direct quote from the movie, Legally Blonde, from her
Aw.
little end graduation speech. And it caught me off guard so much that I whacked my friend's leg. And I was like, oh my gosh, did he just quote Legally Blonde? It was so good. It was like a highlight. I'm sitting in the beautiful New Justice Precinct, ruins. It's gorgeous.
What about
Everyday life.
you
see?
mentioned the word judge there
Yeah.
as a word that you mentioned,
Yes.
and the movie is about judging people before you get to know them.
Oh.
Maybe there's a title there.
What if you
Judgment
called
Blonde.
it? What if you called it Terminator 2 Judgment Day?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we've done it. And then Terminator 2 Judgment Day 2 Red, White and Blonde, then Terminator 2 Judgment Day 2s.
Sarah Woods
Judgment
just wouldn't
Days.
work though.
No,
Yeah.
you don't think?
Okay. Well, that's that little quagmire solved.
Yeah.
So some fun facts about this, and then we'll get into a strange phenomenon that I've noticed about these films. So AJ, this is more of a behind the scenesy kind of fun fact. AJ, do you know this is our 7th straight franchise in a row that doesn't have Funko Pop vinyls modeled after the characters,
You're kidding
which is
me.
our longest streak?
You're telling me the demographic of people who like Legally Blonde don't also like Funko Pops?
Yeah. The
Okay.
last franchise we did that had Funko Pops was Lilo and Stitch. Our last longest stretch without Funko Pops was 5 films, and that was mid last year.
Kate's giving me the look that I know all too well means, what's a Funko Pop?
Yeah. Am I too old or is it?
No, you know those little, you see them at any,
You've seen
kind of
them.
nerdy store or, anything like that, and they're, these little, I probably have one somewhere. They're, these little vinyl versions of characters, and they've got, big black eyes. And they come in little display boxes. They look like they're meant to be collector's
I'm showing them
items,
now.
but they're so mass produced now that there's no demand for them.
Yeah.
So
Right.
people are collecting them, and in 50 years they're going to be worth $12.
Yeah.
Because where do I start? That's my question, Funko.
Well, they are numbered, so you can just start at 1.
Yeah,
What's
but
that
some
guy
of them,
lying down? It's
Which
a
one?
sexy one on the right there.
that's Jeff Goldblum from
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Jurassic Park.
It's awesome.
So did you guys know as well that this that Legally Blonde was based on a book? I didn't know that until
I did not know that.
It pops up at the start of the
until
movie,
a few
yeah.
hours ago. What was that?
It pops up at the start of the movie. It says based on
Does
the
it?
book by whatever her name is.
Oh, nice. But yeah, do you know that book came out 6 weeks before the film?
What?
Whoa.
That makes it significantly less impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, now it's clear it's not based on the
This
book.
movie
is it?
was written, filmed, and released in 6 weeks.
Are you serious? No, you're not.
No, I'm not.
No, it means that they made them at the same time, so it's not it's not less impressive. It depends how good the book is, but it is based on the book. Maybe she wrote.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any more information on that?
No, not really.
No.
There's very little information about the book.
Never mind then.
Well, okay. Well, as a female, you obviously like fashion. What did you think of all of Al's costumes in the film and shit?
Well, I mean, the color pink kind of gripes me a little bit, to be honest, because I'm
All right, so you're not actually a
a
girl,
girl.
or
Yeah. I just think I'm not one of those wanky people that when I have a child, it's going to have a green or yellow room because, gender, none of that gender specific stuff. I'm not that hardcore, but I just think when she's walking up the steps of bloody Congress and she's wearing that bright pink. And then when she goes into like her office and she's like, I just need pinking shears and 20 yards of pink. And it's just like, why
it's like, Elle Woods, you had 4 years at Harvard. Can you be a fucking professional, please?
That's a classic example. The fact that she, it's like, have your little flair, but the fact that you, like, can't just keep your head down on your first day of, like, this really important job in Congress, and the fact that you are confused by the fact that no one else is into it.
Yeah.
It's like, like, it's cool that you're a free spirit and that you're into these things, but you actually have to respect these, like, people's boundaries, and it's like that kind of stuff is infuriating that a character wouldn't have learnt that by the time the sequel rolls around. It's like, still have elements of that, but
you know what
shoving
it
it in
is?
people's face.
It's because the Elle Woods we know for 95% of Legally Blonde is that character, and then we get told 4 years have passed and she graduates. Like, we don't see that character for more than maybe 3 minutes on screen. And so to make a sequel with that version of the character doesn't feel like it would work.
Yeah, I could do it.
Yeah, I know you could. I mean...
But when she's wearing... When they're doing the internship and they're like all like after hours, she's wearing some really beautiful like Gucci shirts and her hair's all slick and she looks stunning. And not to say she doesn't look stunning in her pink attire either, but it's like, you go girl, you wear whatever you want and be you. But I just think like as a singer, here we go, world famous.
This is why she's on.
As a singer, I pick my gears for what gig I'm doing. So if I'm doing like a formal function, I will pick something that's going to fit the scene, and it's exactly that. It's like it's a little bit. She potentially goes a bit OTT in her choices, but then again, I mean, I'll probably get hate on by saying stuff like that, and people be like, "You can wear whatever you want, bitch."
Yeah.
So
you can, bitch.
Yeah, bitch.
Yeah, like, bitch, go for it.
Kate and I are very good friends. I want to explain that. This isn't me just bringing someone on to the podcast and then calling them a bitch. That's not what this is.
I work with all males. It's like, doesn't even touch the size that I'm all good.
Oh, don't lump me in with all males. I'm not like other guys.
This is controversy. Yeah, this is controversy. It's like, anyway.
I'm not like other guys. Famous last words, AJ.
Anyway, so fashion, wear what you want, but maybe
it's good. Well,
tone it down.
Yeah, it's good that you say that. And you mentioned her hairstyle as well. She wore 40 different hairstyles in this film.
Whoa.
Like, how many would you say you normally wear in a day? Like 8?
I only have a very short length of... Oh, you weren't talking to me. I apologize.
No, I was talking to that bitch, Kate.
Hey, you don't know her well enough. You can't do that. Richard, can you stop judging someone before you get to know them?
Hey, super sidetracked, and this could open up a whole another kettle of fish.
Yes.
Is like, I am the world's biggest RuPaul's Drag Race fan.
Yeah.
So hair and eyelashes and makeup there is no limits for me. So
I know a lot of girls who would fight you for the title of the biggest RuPaul.
Yeah, actually, almost every girl I know would be willing to fight.
Every girl, without exception, in the world.
Actually, just like judging these people without knowing them, I would be able to say that.
So, well, but there you go. So it's kind of like, if she wants to wear 40 hairstyles, well, some drag queens wear 40 wigs in one go. So whatever.
At the same time.
Yeah. You do you.
But yeah, she also Reese Witherspoon negotiated in her contract that she got to take home all the costumes that Elle wore at the end of the shoot.
Yes. Oh, I'd do that
both
too.
films.
That's interesting because I don't think Reese Witherspoon. I guess
is very attractive.
No, I don't think she's like Elle in real life. Like watching these movies, and maybe it's because I've seen her as now like taking on more mature roles in more recent years. But
well, she's also she's a big like feminist icon.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think she was too much like Elle, and it made me actually think, oh man, Reese Witherspoon's a real good actress that she can, be playing like a...
No, it turns out she's actually not a good actress.
But she produced Legally Blondes.
Oh, okay, she said, yep. that was the extension of her producing. They said, do you mind if we put you on as producer? She's like, how much money do I get? And
can I just say, in her defense, like, how much she did or didn't, she needed to have some say on that fucking awful painting of her in that house. Do you guys remember the painting on the wall?
I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think you saw her enough to saw the painting enough.
Yeah, it's right in the right. I was.
Oh no.
I'm sorry. It really gets like me upset.
I feel like we haven't talked about Legally Blondes enough in this episode yet.
Well, we'll get to it, AJ. Jesus Christ.
We did have a big rant at the start.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, another. This is under my little fun facts section. Bruiser was actually a dog named Mooney.
I can never watch this movie again then.
And he died in 2016. Reese Witherspoon took to Instagram to announce the passing of Mooney. Said, with a sad heart, I have to let all the hashtag Legally Blonde fans know that Bruiser Woods, also known as Mooney, passed away yesterday. He was a very sweet little chihuahua who was very loved. I will never forget the days we spent together. I'm sure his tail is wagging in the sky, sending love to his trainer, the wonderful @TailSticks. R.I.P. Bruiser.
What year was that, did you say?
March 10th, 2016.
Jeez, he lived good innings for a dog.
For a chihuahua.
Good innings.
Yeah.
What? You've never used that expression before.
I did. I used it when I resigned from my last job. Okay, so
I had a good innings. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I said. They were like, "Why are you leaving?" I was like, "I've had good innings."
And was everyone like,
not
only do you not watch baseball, but you don't watch cricket either?
You can get innings in cricket?
Yeah.
I thought you could only sandpaper balls in cricket. Topical. Ooh. That's what I know about cricket.
You can also underarm bowl.
Oh, you could.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, you can't anymore. They changed the rules after the bloody Aussies. Anyway, we don't need to get into it.
Do you know, to get into it, just briefly, I was going on a big rant last week where I was like, you know what? I'd like to propose that putting sandpaper on a ball isn't actually that bad of a thing to do. Like, maybe it's just a dodgy strategy, like counting cards in blackjack. And then someone sent me a Wikipedia page for the rules of cricket where it says in black and white, you cannot rub sandpaper on the ball. And I was like, well, if it's in the rules, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, so what they did was they put a little bit of like sandpaper. Well, they've said it's not sandpaper. They put like this tape on a ball, and so you know how the ball has like a stitch on it, and so that's like affects the spin of the ball, and putting sandpaper on affects the like wind resistance, and so it changes the way the ball spins. Yeah, and so that's the crime kind of thing. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, if it's these balls are like. The teams don't just get to bring their own ball, that they like know how it feels. There are regulations, and so that everyone is fair play. So altering the ball in any way is obviously against the rules.
Man, you should be a lawyer.
And segue back in. Because I tuned out because you're talking about sports. So.
Hey, I don't like sport either. I'm not like other guys, Kate.
I love I always go onto IMDb to research these films, and I often you get some really strange facts. Like there was it was about Emily Blunt was in a film with Emily Blunt was in a film with John Hamm, and it was like this is her second time starring opposite someone with a pork-based last name, because she also starred in X-Men First Class with Kevin Bacon. And that's probably my favourite IMDb fact of all time. But I quite like this one as well. This is the entirety of the trivia entry. Just says, every woman in Downton New is Caucasian.
In the musical, they're not.
Wow.
Is
it like explicitly stated, or is it just...
Yeah, so there's Elle Woods, and then there's the two that are in the movie, but then there's a third. And she is traditionally played by a coloured-skinned girl.
Oh, nice. And is there a song that's just I have heaps of black friends?
No, but she does basically rap.
I don't like it anymore. It's stopped being like a good way to like include representation and started being something else.
They're pretty great though. The characterization's pretty awesome with the four of them. So,
okay.
But I don't know. I'll leave that to you.
We need to do a cult pop show outing to the music. When's it playing next?
It's actually been Christchurch played it last year. It was the summer musical of the Court Theatre last year.
Damn it.
Sorry.
Oh, well, we can still go see Sister Act, right?
No, that happened.
Damn it.
You can go see Wicked opening on Friday night at the Theatre Royal.
I have no feelings about Wicked at all. Not enough to groan about it like that.
When I was in Melbourne recently, the American Idiot musical was on.
Oh yeah.
And I was like real keen to go, but it was like $100, and I didn't know about it until I just randomly saw it, so I hadn't like put money aside for it. And I looked up, I was like, I'll see if it's a good version of it. And like the first, when you searched like American Idiot musical Melbourne, the first review had 1 star, and it was just like, this is fucking terrible.
I didn't know.
So
there
I was
an
like,
American
probably not.
Idiot
Yeah, there is.
musical.
That was going to happen here in Christchurch. It potentially will.
Is it? Oh, you've got a Cult Popture exclusive.
I do. But yeah, no, but you
If
can
don't live
actually.
in Christchurch.
Tickets available at
Who
Court
cares?
Theatre /Cult Pop Show.
No, I think it's in the works still.
Richard, are we ready for our new segment that we talked about today?
No, not yet.
Cool.
I just want to say, I've just got a couple more like interesting little fun facts. So I don't know, Kate, how much you know about like film production, but
Nothing.
anyone listening might think this sounds ridiculous, but anyone who's ever been involved in film or television production will like know how true this is. So in Red, White and Blonde, there's this Million Dog March, and they got all these dogs as extras and whatnot. Do you know all of the dogs that worked for one day on the Million Dog March were credited in the film, but most of the production assistants who worked on the films for months weren't credited.
Whoa.
What were the dogs' names?
Mooney
Yeah.
and Friends.
Do you?
It just said Mooney and Friends. That covered all of them.
Do you?
So were the dogs' names in the credits?
Yeah,
In the actual rolling credits at the end of the movie?
yeah.
Far
Yeah.
out. How many dogs?
But, no,
How
but
many
the production
names?
assistants weren't. There was $1 million.
Oh, $1 million in the $1 million dog march.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
But yeah, and I think it's time for a new segment.
Oh my God.
And Kate has generously offered to sing us a theme song. Kate, take it away.
Should we tell her what the segment's called?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
It's time for a new segment here at Culture.
Cult Culture.
Culture.
The only chicken-based podcast this side of the Southern Hemisphere. I hope.
Clark Popture.
Coat.
The only
Culture.
chicken apparel podcast. Coat Culture.
Hey, Cult Poultry would be a good like spin-off series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we look at the greatest chickens in film. Number 1, Rocky from Chicken Run. Number 2,
All the rest of the chickens.
Ginger from Chicken
Yeah.
Run.
All right. This is a new segment which I've invented just for AJ. He came to me today and he was like, Richard, I got something I want to say. So he called it an observation. So we've called this segment Observation Deck. So hop on the observation deck, and here's your captain, Alexander Jones, with an observation.
I'm real nervous now. No, I thought it was
I feel like
interesting.
you need like cruise, like the love.
Oh, here we go.
Soon we'll be making another. You know, that kind of.
Yeah.
They actually do that in the film.
Do they?
One of the friends, I can't remember their names.
And that's today's observation. No.
All right. Well, yeah, AJ, sorry. Observation deck's
No! Okay, so Kate, when we were talking the other day, and I said, have you listened to any of our episodes? And you're like, I listened to a bit of the Eddie Murphy one. And I said, oh, you should listen to American Pie.
Yeah.
Did you do that?
Yep.
Sweet. Good. I've noticed.
Otherwise, this observation would be.
So we were commenting further towards the start of this year's episodes of the film franchise Fortnights. We were baffled by the fact that we did The Hangover to kick off the year, and then we rolled and got American Pie, and we noted when we did American Pie that it's kind of like, oh, it's like we're going back in time for comedies, like mainstream comedies, and how like. Even just at the last one coming out in 2011, Hangover's pretty dated by today's social standards. We go back to the 2000s with American Pie, and we're like, oh man, this is even worse. And then amazingly, we completed our accidental trilogy with Revenge of the Nerds, which goes back to the 80s and is even more politically incorrect.
Because it's got rape in it.
Yeah. But I've now the only thing that screws this up is in between Revenge of the Nerds and Nutty Professor, we had Romancing the Stone and Jewel of the Nile, which kind of screws up the flow a bit. But it is interesting that we did Nutty Professor and then got Legally Blonde, because I was thinking, if American Pie is like the generic white dude comedy, white dude from the 2000s comedy, and
Nutty Professor is the generic black person.
no, it is. that humor is defined in Hollywood talk as like, it's the demographic.
It's a dark comedy.
The demographic of the Eddie Murphy Nutty Professor films are mainly geared towards African American.
It's mainly Eddie Murphy is the demographic.
Whether that demographic is exists or not, that's still what studios are aiming at. And then Legally Blonde is like the basic white girl version of American Pie.
Okay, didn't you say you're a big fan of it?
Basic bitch over here.
So the biggest difference, I guess, between Legally Blonde and the early American Pie films is obviously American Pie is a lot more filthy.
Yeah.
But of course it is. It's geared towards teenage boys.
Yeah.
Legally Blonde is like an empowering woman kind of movie that is probably typically geared towards teenage girls. That's at least part of its demographic.
Yeah.
And so the humour is a lot more catered to that kind of demographic. And on top of this, it also, we talked about when we did American Pie, how the soundtrack to American Pie is like Blink-182 and Sum 41 and other bands with numbers in the titles, and like how they all sing like this, and it's like it's so emblematic of that time in history and that time in Hollywood, that those movies, you hear Fat Lip by Sum 41 and you think of American Pie. But Legally Blonde opens with "It's a perfect day,
nothing's gonna get my way."
Yeah, which is like that's the basic white girl version of Fat Lip, like or Laid by James. I looked it up. It's by a band called Kuko or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's called Perfect Day. Look it up. And yeah,
just ruined your flow
so,
there, AJ.
I don't know. What do you guys have any thoughts on that? On what Legally Blonde is as a tentpole in a certain corner of Hollywood's demographics?
No.
Well, yeah, dead air there, eh? I just,
Cool.
I mean, like, there's no sex in Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
Like, full stop. That's realistically the difference. Because Emmett's not, like, well, Abashi says that night we spent in the hot tub for 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's, there's no,
Or she says when she slaps the AJ character, she's like,
Yeah.
in the night of my life.
But it's like, it's all just
It's very PG.
PG, and it's all about, like, that would brush over a teenager
Yeah.
that could be holding hands.
Yeah, and that is the main difference. But I feel like, at least in Hollywood's eyes, teenage boys want to see boobies.
Yeah.
Teenage girls don't want to see boobies.
AJ, now...
At least, hold on, at least heterosexual
Oh, here we go.
teenage girls don't necessarily want to see boobies.
Did you, AJ? Because I know you're not like other guys.
Look, I see through the boobies into the heart. I don't see boobies.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not like other guys.
I've got nothing.
No, okay, well, that was observation deck. I like the idea of observation deck being like someone does a spiel that no one has to comment on. That's kind of true to what an observation is.
Yeah. Well, what you're saying about the PG-ness of these films actually leads me into just like this phenomenon that
like, I'm formulating a joke, but I can't get there. It rhymes with penis. That someone help me out here.
PG-ness.
Is that like what you have to call a penis in a PG movie? Don't look at my PG-ness.
Oh my gosh.
Richard.
This film constantly shoving its PG-ness down our throats.
Richard, what were you saying? It's PG-ness.
But yeah, so I mentioned earlier that there's this weird phenomenon that I've noticed recently that Legally Blonde has been in the news a lot in the last week. Like we we've talked about this, I think, before, about how it seems like every time we do a franchise, something comes up, and even if it just makes the front page of Reddit about it, or it like some new piece of information gets revealed, they comment on whether they're making a sequel. It happens more often than not. This time it's happened before we've actually recorded the podcast. Like, my mum sent me a link to a New Zealand Herald article about Legally Blonde like 2 days ago, and it came out on April 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And this is April 4th at the time of recording, just so everyone is aware of the time frames. But here's like some excerpts. I think the writers have given some interview recently, and they've been talking about it. So there's like all these like, oh, this almost didn't happen and whatnot. But here's a couple of interesting tidbits that came out of all these different news articles. So Entertainment Weekly describes some of the dirty jokes that didn't make it into the script. So this film almost wasn't quite as PG as we've come to know and love. So
Scandal.
in the beginning of the movie, Elle, Reese Witherspoon, is unexpectedly
Sorry, I forgot who Elle
dumped by her super hunky boyfriend, Warner, played by Matthew Davis. After which she returns to the sorority house to eat chocolate, sulk, and generally hate men. But when her sorority sisters Serena and Margot want to cheer her up, they decide that it's time for the one thing that makes her feel better no matter what, a manicure. Only the script didn't always say manicure.
Oh, fuck. What did it say? What did it say?
This is actually real fucking funny. I reckon. So originally, so one of them would be like, what's the one thing that always makes her feel better? And the other one would go, cunnilingus.
Of course!
And she goes, no, the thing after that. And then it would cut to them getting a manicure.
Oh my gosh.
That's fucking hilarious.
That's pretty like that's like straight up, eh? There's no hold back.
It really
with
bumps
it.
up the rating. Like, it is the only thing. Imagine if that was the only thing in the movie like that.
Depends on.
Yeah, I know. That's what would be so funny.
It depends on which one said it.
You reckon?
Yeah.
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 Like if
because
Reese,
if the blonde one, the real ditzy one said it, it wouldn't hit as hard. But if the cheerleader one said it, you'd be like, whoa, shit. Because she really lays the smack down, whereas the other one's like, oh, look, there's a judge in everything. She's that kind of.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot of truth in that joke. I don't know if you want to comment, Kate.
No comment.
I'll comment.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like...
No, I won't.
Between, like, cunnilingus and a manicure... Anyway.
If I'm rating how much I enjoy something between cunnilingus and a manicure...
Yeah, I mean, like unrelated, but the idea of a manicure is, like, terrifying. I could not get a manicure. People have tried, like, to say, "Oh, Richard, you should get one; it'll be fine." No, like,
do you not watch Queer Eye for the Straight Guy? Don't you know that's what all men do now?
Yeah, well, apparently. But
checks his nails. I bite my nails, so there's your answer there.
But like, I hate even when you go to the hairdresser and they shampoo your head for you.
Oh,
like,
you're not.
that's
That's the best thing ever.
I've never done
like, yeah, lots of people say it's better than cunnilingus, but
what? Oh my gosh. Who are these people? Who are you talking to? Who are these people that are telling you
to
things?
get manicures?
Just people like come up to me all the time.
Man.
Wow.
Well, maybe you should.
But yeah, like I hate other people like, having control over me like that.
Wow. I feel like there's a deeper issue there.
And like massages and stuff like that. I hate that.
Wow. I got acupuncture today, just throwing that out there.
How was it?
It was pretty intense. I'm still quite...
What did you say?
She got acupuncture.
Today.
Oh.
Today. A few hours ago.
Oh. And she still turned up to record the podcast.
Oh, I'm not... Yeah. I'm not in a...
Would you say it was better than cunnilingus?
On a scale... Okay, at the start of the scale... Wait, no. How would the scale look? If you've got manicures at one point, cunnilingus at another point, and acupuncture at another point.
Yeah, and you've got...
Triangle?
And so... If cunnilingus is 10 and watching Legally Blondes is 0, where did acupuncture
on a
rank?
scale of how good you feel from Legally Blondes to cunnilingus, I'll take the acupuncture, please.
I think part of it is that, like, cunnilingus is a really funny
Oh
word.
my,
And
yeah.
I'm not being patriarchal because fellatio is equally as funny. But like,
Oh man.
Who would
anyway,
win in a fight?
I've gone on about this too long for like an episode that my sister was excited to listen to because she likes Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
But the other dirty joke that was cut from the script. In a later scene, Al informs her besties of her plan to attend Harvard, at which point Margot decides to be supportive and give Al her lucky scrunchie. She explains it's lucky because it helped her pass Spanish, but as Serena says, Margot passed Spanish because she gave the professor a lap dance. Apparently that line was, she gave the professor a hand job.
Wow.
Not as funny.
That's pretty straight up. Like, that's pretty...
It's not that cunnilingus is a funny word. It's that
The idea of doing that.
It's a deeply clinical word. Like
Yeah.
it's not like she was like, what always cheers her up, and she was like eating out, and it's like maybe she could have meant going to a restaurant, like at a stretch, or maybe it was
Yeah.
a double entendre. It's a no
That would have
buts
been a good
about
line,
it.
actually.
Yeah, no, we are definitely talking about.
What we're
Cunnilingus.
talking
Well,
about.
yeah, she like that because but the line isn't as funny, or maybe it is funnier. Being like, no, well, you passed Spanish because you performed mutual masturbation with the professor.
But but there's the level of the whole, like, if you want to go back to your observation, AJ, is
All right, sorry.
where
Back on
American
the observation.
Pie-
Observation deck has stopped.
Yeah.
Everyone,
I'm
grab
bringing
your
it back
sunnies. Grab your sunnies. We've got to go back to
Grab
the
it.
observation deck.
poultry, where are we? But that's where American Pie would say that, and you're not shocked by it. But you're shocked to an extent. But if Legally Blonde just dropped that, like
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes, half an hour into the movie, you'd be like, oh, this is nice. Oh, this is what hand job.
Yeah.
And you'd
I
lose
agree.
the niceness of the float.
Yeah.
Whereas like you're older, if you're watching it with your little sister, and your little sister's like la 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 la, and you're watching it, and she's like lol lap dance. The older
Yeah.
sister's like, haha, yeah right, more than a lap dance.
Yeah.
It's So they couldn't have put those.
They'd have
crude
to have
things
called
in
it
there.
Kinda Legally Blonde. There's my other title that they should have called it. We need to move on. Goodness me.
Yeah, we've
What?
spent a lot of time on this one area.
What do you say? We've spent a lot of time on
Let's just move
cunnilingus.
on,
Let's just
Richard. Move it along. Move it along.
So the New Zealand Herald writes, apparently so we've talked about this big speech that ends the film, and apparently it didn't always end like that. It originally ended with her just winning the court case and they kiss outside court, and that was it. And the speech was actually filmed months later. Luke Wilson had started shooting the Royal Tenenbaums. He had shaved his head, so he had to wear a wig. Reese Witherspoon had started filming The Importance of Being Earnest, cut her hair short, so she had to wear a wig as well. And she's also got freckles in the last scene that aren't there in any other part of the film because she naturally has freckles that, for some, I think, like, she'd gotten a bit more sun and they couldn't cover them with makeup.
But wouldn't you think, like,
But
this is 4 years later, she maybe got
This
more
is true.
natural.
This is true.
She
Yeah, I mean,
didn't
that's
even-
the
Maybe
thing.
Luke Wilson shaved his head.
Yeah, it's 4 years later, guys.
But yeah, so Reese Witherspoon was actually shot in London.
Oh my gosh, is she okay? What was she shot with? A spoon?
You got there before I could. Yeah, so and then Luke Wilson and stuff were shot in the US.
My God.
Oh my god, it was a bloodbath.
Don't. But too soon, guys. Too soon.
Yeah, so I mean that's just a fun fact. Yeah,
I'm
and then
having a lot
also
of fun
so
with that fact.
Glamour.com writes about how the bend and snap scene almost didn't happen. That's right. The most iconic scene in Legally Blonde history almost didn't happen. Basically, the studio wanted Paulette to have a B plot, and for ages it was going to be the store getting robbed, until thankfully, ladies
Reese
back me up
Witherspoon
here.
improvised the bend and snap.
But one of the writers stepped in and suggested that Al teach her a move to get the attention of the hot UPS guy. Thus, cinema history was born.
There you
It
go.
was.
Also, one more thing I wanted to say about Cunnilingus is that apparently one of the reasons it was cut is because a producer was like, "What's cunnilingus?"
Well,
No, I was
And,
pretty old before I learned that.
if you,
So-
that's what it was
you either
called.
know or you don't know.
This is
Yeah.
what it said in the article: is that one of the producers was like, "That's not funny. What's cunnilingus?" And it said that producer is no longer working for the studio, and also his wife left him.
Or
I get it.
He's no longer with his wife.
wow.
Because he didn't know what cunnilingus is, right? That's the joke, right?
Yeah, that's the joke.
Yeah. Okay, just
But I mean, as far as I know, it's a true story.
wow.
So that's just about all I have to say about Legally Blonde. So we can move on to a segment called Continue the Franchise. And once again, we've got a beautiful new theme song. Take it away, Kate.
What's it called?
Continue the
franchise.
You've got to continue the franchise. You got to continue the. Did you say cunnilingus? Continue the franchise with Capocha.
Yeah,
That's going in
all right.
every
Capocha.
episode.
That's right. That's true.
Did you
It's
hear
time
me?
to cunnilingus the franchise with
Capocha.
cunnilingus pop shit.
I can't sing. I can't sing. Cult.
You can sing. It's so hard on yourself.
But I can't get.
Come on our
cult-
fucking
cult-
podcast and tell us you
Like a
can't
cult.
sing.
Cult.
Like
cult.
the
I can't
occult.
do that like swiftly.
It's hard.
It
Yeah.
is. Anyway.
So, just so you guys know, apparently Reese Witherspoon didn't have a very good time working on the sequel, and she hasn't done a sequel since. She has signed on for Sing 2. That's her first sequel since then. That comes out in 2020, if anyone's interested in Sing
You'd be
2,
interested
which I
in
know
that,
they're not.
Kate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Be
Sign me
first
up.
in line. So when asked about it in 2016, she did like a Facebook Live, and she said, a lot of people have asked me if we're going to make another Legally Blonde, and we're thinking about it.
Wow.
And as mentioned as well, there's also a Broadway musical which had a reality TV show go alongside it, which focused on the arduous task of recasting Elle Woods after the woman who played it initially on Broadway stood down.
That's interesting because that's a continue the franchise on a way that the franchise was already continued in a musical.
That was actually really interesting too. It was actually a very good.
Oh, you've seen...
I've seen it.
Oh, okay.
So who wants to go first with Continue the Franchise?
Can I go first? Because I feel I have the most obvious, ergo boring continuation.
Yeah. Okay, go.
Okay, so I'm just following the thread that was insinuated at the end of Red, White, and Blonde, where they're like, "Where do you want to go next?" And she looks at the White House and she's like, "I've got some ideas." So I pitch to you, Legally Blonde 3, Blonde Nation. It's 2020.
We need it now more
Make
than
America
ever.
blonde again.
Yeah. It's 2020. Al Woods is president.
That would be the tagline.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah. Make America blonde again. Absolutely. We've all pitched in for this one. That's literally all I had. What would happen? Maybe the White House gets painted pink. It's the Pink House now. Yeah. Al Woods is president. It seems like a natural progression.
And then
And
what
she's
would be
like
the
talking
fourth?
to
What
Kim
would be the
Jong
next
Un,
one?
and she's like, "Why don't we just say nice things about each other?"
Oh my gosh. Snaps for Kim Jong. He got
Or-
a nice haircut. Snaps.
Well, I'll
You
go
didn't
next
bomb.
and put the pressure on Kate to drive us home with
Yeah.
an amazing continuation.
Yeah.
But I liked the idea. My continuation. I don't have a title for it. AJ, maybe you can
I'll think about it.
wow us. But I like the idea of the twins from Legally Blondes being framed for murder, or maybe they committed a murder and Al Woods has to defend them.
No, yeah, I'm quite enjoying that.
Yeah.
But or you could have these twins are like they've committed a murder, and Al Woods is the prosecutor, and she has to send her own cousins to jail.
Wow.
For the crimes of not only murder but also starring in Legally Blondes.
So
Zing.
blonde is the new.
3
Orange
words.
is
Orange is the
but
new.
Orange is
Orange is
new
the new
blonde.
blonde.
Orange is the New Blonde. Richard, I've got a title for Legally Blonde as a series that's better than Legally Blonde, and it's so obvious.
Yeah.
Blonde Justice.
Yeah.
Because you're still
using
changing
blind.
blind to blonde, but when you talk about blind justice, that idiom doesn't refer to someone being blind, whereas being legally blind means like you've been diagnosed with being blind.
Don't think it pops though.
You don't think blonde justice?
Sounds too dark for pink.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, I feel like I just shot
No,
you down.
you're right.
Sorry.
You're right.
Well, you're right.
Kate,
Well, you're right.
what's your continue the franchise thing?
Yeah, so she says like being like, oh, that's so dark, and then I'm like, well. I was just telling AJ that I'm currently watching Prison Break at the moment.
Ooh.
So it kind of actually flows on from yours, Richard, because like because I don't want to spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched Prison Break.
Mhm.
So if you are watching it and don't want to know, you should just put your fingers in your ears for 30 seconds and
That's
then
where
come
the
back and
headphones
listen. Oh, they can sing a wee song. They could sing the theme song for this particular segment.
Continue the franchise.
But so in season 2, a whole lot of shit happens in season 1, obviously, but then they get put into another prison in Panama, and it's like basically like you're gonna die in that prison.
Yeah.
Because it's just savage as anything. Yep.
Oh my god, do
And
they
I was-
die?
Some do, many do.
They'll be killed. Gee.
And I just feel like either you're right, like Elle Woods needs to be like framed and thrown into like this savage, and she needs to escape.
And she represents herself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. But they do these things where they like, you throw down the chicken foot, and that means the two of them go into the circle, and it's like one comes out alive and one dies, and it's just how they roll it, Sona. So Elle Woods like. So I kind of like the whole like pink is the new orange or orange is the new pink, whatever you want to do. But I also like that the twins
Blonde
committed
is the
a
new
murder.
pink. Incorporate both colours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something along those lines. But
yeah.
I got pretty dark on it because
Yeah.
they just kill people left, right, and centre in that show. So I'm pretty
Solid.
Oh, spoilers.
Solid. Continue the franchise, team.
yeah.
Yeah. I like how they like progressed and thought outedness.
Yeah.
I'd just love to see her doing like the snack cup in Sona, where they're all
In
just like
prison.
fighting to.
They've got like teardrop tattoos and like.
Yeah. The shank cup. Shanks for Kate.
Shanks
In
cat.
this prison, bend and snap means something else.
Yeah, don't bend and snap in the shower.
But then there's also the other one, which would be Emmett and Elle have babies, and then the babies are the new.
Legally babies.
Oh my gosh, one of them's not. Their baby isn't blonde. Their baby's brunette. And it's like a Lion King 2 situation where it's like, I don't look like who I'm supposed to look like.
Or like the Little Mermaid, where she doesn't know that her mum's a mermaid, and she loves the water, but
Mum,
she
you're a
doesn't know
blonde.
why.
That's why you love lore.
Because Reese, fun fact as well, Reese Witherspoon was actually pregnant while filming the second one. But we could have like a 15-year-old kid, which is older than the leads of Legally Blondes.
Yeah.
That you're like they could have a 15-year-old kid now if it just took place in real time, which it doesn't have to. They could just say it takes place, 20 years after the original. But yeah, I mean, we even wait another 5 years, and Al and Emmett could have like a 20-year-old kid that's having an identity crisis. Maybe she comes home and has dyed her hair brunette, and Al essentially disowns her and frames her for murder or something.
Or she's like Rapunzel, and
Yeah.
she cuts her blonde hair, and then all the magic goes because she's a brunette.
Oh my goodness.
Oh damn!
Whoa,
Regally blonde.
that works.
Ooh.
Elle Woods becomes queen.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, she
Yes,
already is
queen.
queen.
yeah,
Yes.
it's queen. And then RuPaul
Yeah.
is,
Yes. Of course.
of course.
You could like Legally Blonde and RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh, what
they
a
could
dream.
have a crossover easily.
Oh, that would be magic. To
I'm surprised they haven't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so now it's time for our final segment. Unless we need to go back up to the observation deck. If Kate or AJ,
It's
you guys have any
closed.
other?
No, I checked. It's closed.
Oh, okay, right. Well, it's time for a segment now called Kate. franchise.
This is really testing how well we've synced up Skype.
Franchise. Roulette.
Franchise roulette. Yeah. Anyway, so this is where I've got a random number generator here, and
Wait, but Kate's here. She can give us a random number.
oh, of course, yes. And so I've got
Fucking
the
idiot.
franchise list up in front of me. Do you have it up in front of you, AJ?
I don't. You take
Okay,
this
yeah,
one,
I've got
man.
it. All right, so Kate, can
Yep.
you please give me a random number between 1 and 307?
306.
That is the 2-film franchise known as Camp Rock.
Oh!
You want to come back for
I'll come back in 2 weeks' time. Shit, yeah?
Sweet.
Jonas Brothers, Demi Lovato, come on!
It's like we get the Hangover, and then we go through the.
It's
halls
like, yeah,
of
we
comedy.
get the hangover.
We go through the halls of comedy to American Pie, to Revenge of the Nerds, which leads us to Nutty Professor and Legally Blonde, and then Legally Blonde spins us off on this musical section, and now we're in Camp Rock. What's next? I don't know.
High School Musical?
High School Musical, which we've also asked you to be on when we eventually do that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers for when High School Musical.
Spoilers.
You're our resident musical guest.
Oh, I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'm so into it.
Cool. Well, that is the episode. Kate,
Yep.
where can people find you if they loved your singing voice?
Well, the teaser that was that.
Yeah.
They can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Kate Music Taylor. But also,
Music's her middle name.
music is my middle name, literally. I also, now just to kind of wrap up this whole like feminist boom, chicks are awesome.
Yeah, finally, let's put an end to it.
The fact that Elle Woods did something awesome as a female is a great thing, and I think that's awesome. So she can wear pink, whatever she wants. It's great. And she can marry guys as well, and that's awesome too. And she could marry girls if she wanted, and that's fine as well.
You're covering all your bases.
I am. I learned
What,
from
could
the
she
master.
marry a black person?
Absolutely.
No.
Oh, God, no.
But I'm also in a all-girl big band, all-female big band. There's 20 of us, and we're
What's your all-girl big band called?
The all-girl big band. Thanks for asking.
Let's make
So
the
you can
movie.
also find us at allgirlbigband.co.nz or facebook.com/babes of the big band.
Wow.
So it's a really like tie up the female kind of power to the ladies.
No, that's great. Thank you, Kate. Thank you for coming
Hey,
on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And if you want to find Cult Popture, not you specifically, Kate, but you're welcome to. We are also on Facebook and Twitter and Gmail. And where else?
Yeah.
Instagram. Go to our Instagram. Follow us on Instagram.
Instagram
Yeah,
is
and
the way of the future.
let us know what you thought of the episode. Did my overt use of the word cunnilingus make you uncomfortable?
When did you say that? That's weird that you'd bring this up now out of nowhere.
Richard, that's strange
I
that you just
blocked it.
randomly throw that word in.
I blocked it like
Little do
Wiggly
I know
Blondes.
you've cut all of my references to cunnilingus other than
Yeah.
this.
Except when you just said it then, so even when you said it before, I cut that out. Alright, thank you everybody. Goodbye.
Bending down to pick up my phone.
What
Thank
did
you,
I say at the
bye.
end of Legally Blonde? We did it! Is that
We
it?
did it!
Yeah!
We did it. I can think of a place.
You ruined it.
I'm struggling to think of what happens at the end of Legally Blondes. Alright, goodbye. It just peters out like this.